Today we have Zhagum Arshad, how Zaigham was able to achieve what he's achieved. So I'd like to welcome Zhagum Arshad and my co-host here, ZAFAR Majid, as well.
At the moment, I'm across a few different things. Sometimes I get confused myself how many different things I'm running. But the majority of our operations are e-commerce. So we sell products all around Europe. So we've got a base in Birmingham, another warehouse in the Netherlands, factories in Pakistan that supply the products to those two warehouses. And we distribute direct to consumer, lots of different brands of soft furnishings, garden products and children's furniture. Bean bags is a big part of our business. This is a lesson I think that people should adopt now, is that you don't realize where the industry is going. And you don't realize when you're onto a good thing. And we didn't realize that at the time, that it was a dot-com boom. We should have really capitalized on it. We understood it early. And so in the early 2000s, we should have been opening.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world that you're in and what time of day you're tuning in to the Leader Show. Today, we have Zhagum Arshad. Zaigham is the CEO of Loft 25, and on top of that, he's got a number of other numerous ventures that he's set up abroad. So today we're going to be discussing how Zhagum was able to achieve what he's achieved, and what was his journey. What sort of like caused him to say, okay, I want to do more now. I want to start doing stuff for the community. So we're going to be drilling deep down and see the person behind what most people will see. They'll probably see the front end, but what's gone on behind, what's got him to where he is today. So I'd like to welcome Zhagum Arshad and my co-host here, ZAFAR Majid, as well.
Jazakallah, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me, Mo.
Wa alaikum salam. It's a pleasure. Zhagum, please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are currently in your business.
So at the moment, I'm across a few different things. Sometimes I get confused myself how many different things I'm running. But the majority of our operations are e-commerce. So we sell products all around Europe. So we've got a base in Birmingham, another warehouse in the Netherlands, factories in Pakistan that supply the products to those two warehouses. And we distribute direct to consumer, lots of different brands of soft furnishings, garden products and children's furniture. Bean bags is a big part of our business. And we sell them all over Europe. And that's our e-commerce part of our business, which is what fuels the other things we do. And those other things then are, what we'll probably explore today, but like they are empowering people back in Pakistan with jobs, with a future, which was often elusive to them because it's very difficult to, make a good living or have a good standard of living out there. And I wanted to fix that. And I viewed business as being my route to be able to do so.
Excellent. So tell me, what sort of age did you become an entrepreneur, or decided you want to become an entrepreneur?
So I was discussing this with my kids the other day. So I've never had a job. I was entrepreneurial from the start. And
Okay.
So my parents were in business. And so it was very ingrained into us that that's the kind of route we would take. So I've been in business since I was 21, the day after I graduated. Even when I was at university, actually, I had an e-commerce business. Selling shoes to Japan was what it was. And very early days, like I remember when Google came out and Amazon was starting. And
now you're giving your age away.
Absolutely. And, and so very early days. And, I was looking for that next big thing to be able to, it was all very fascinating that I could sell products around the world from my, my university accommodation, essentially.
So what was your first venture then when you started?
It was a business called shoeimage.com, and we were like, these were the really early days. So one of my best friends, Ash Ali, who went on to become the marketing director at Just Eat, so he built a website and said, look what I can build websites. And I was like, oh, we could sell shoes on this, because our family business was footwear. And so I went to some of the warehouses, got some shoes, put them on this website, and started just suddenly orders started to come in. And we were like, okay, people in Japan want to buy these British handmade shoes, supposedly, right? That, they valued a lot. And then we need to send them out. And then people are ordering from all around the world, had to work out how to post these things, back in those days, how to take payments. Credit card payments was like quite new. So it just very kind of fluid, very experimental. And that's a spirit I've maintained ever since. Like, you just try things. A lot of people will ideate over something and ideate forever and then never actually launch the thing. you've got to actually get out there and just try something and see what happens, because often, you'll learn along the way. And I think that's the quickest way to entrepreneurship. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't need to be shown how it's going to be done. You just go out and work it out.
Excellent, excellent. So how much would you say knowledge that the individual needs to have? Because you was fortunate enough that you were brought up in the shoe industry. So not having the knowledge in that and then having to jump into something entirely different. So say the average person starting out today on his journey and he wants to set up an e-commerce business. What knowledge would you advise that he or she needs to gain before they make that leap?
Interesting observation for me here is that we don't ask. It's a culture within even our community where we've got so many people in business, but we don't ask them. We feel like the knowledge is like, some sort of special zone that, only they have access to. Well, we just need to ask the right questions. There's people who are doing what you probably want to do. The principles are often the same in business. Finance is finance, cash flow is cash flow. These are the kind of grounding principles that we can access each other for really easily. It's not like an issue of needing to go and do some sort of long course or something to know how to run a business. You need to have a little network of people that you can lean on. I have that, by text message. I probably get, last night I was answering text messages until 1 a.m. And what are they? It's like, I've got this little problem, I'm not quite sure what to do, I need your advice. No, I absolutely have all the time in the world for that. I'm like, okay, yeah, just do this. And I know, or I can put them in touch with the right person to help them know. But those people are wise. They're accessing people with more experience and benefiting from them. Back in my time, it didn't feel to me at least as approachable. You felt like the business people who were sizable at least were unapproachable. And you thought, they're not going to want to talk to me. Today I know so many of them, and they're super approachable, right? They want to talk to you.
I think that's something that I came across as well. And I think it's more of a confidence issue. When you're younger, you don't have the confidence to approach these people. Now that you're more mature, more successful, now everybody is just a normal person that is approachable. And yourself can approach anyone now, even if, I don't want to mention their names, but like billionaires, known billionaires were in front of you, you wouldn't be hesitating to go and approach them and speak to them. Yeah. So it's definitely a confidence issue when you're younger.
It's that little bit of that tidbit of information sometimes that's really important. Now, there was someone who I kind of mentor who came to me a while ago and needed to source a manufacturer for a garment he was making. And as soon as I looked at the price he was paying, I could tell he was paying 10 times more than he needed to. And for him, it was like, well, that's what I've been quoted by 3 different people. This is the ballpark. And I was like, no, you're way off. I know, because I've done manufacturing. Here's what you need to do. You need to go to Turkey, go and talk to one of the manufacturers there. That's not the cheapest angle yet, but it's going to be the easiest one for you. Go and do that first. And immediately you're 10 times cheaper in your product than you were before. And he could have learnt that himself. It might have taken him 5 years, and he might have been out of business before he learnt. And that information costs me what to give? Absolutely nothing, right? It's just there, right? It's just in the background. It's a quick, you need to do this. That's easy guidance, and I think that often young entrepreneurs don't realize the value of that. They don't seek it out.
I think one of the greatest things where the new generation, today's generation, have is access to the social media from YouTube channels. I mean, there isn't a single thing that I can think of that YouTube doesn't tell you how to do or how to fix. I mean, I was struggling to change a light bulb on one of my vehicles a few years back. I was struggled and watched the video, and he showed me. I did that literally in about 5 minutes. But where business is concerned, you've got an awful lot of voices out there, some rightfully trying to peddle their own sort of wares, others genuinely sharing knowledge and experiences on how to do things. How valuable is that for today's entrepreneur?
Look, there's a lot of knowledge out there. I mean, I'm jealous of that. We didn't have that. We needed knowledge. We had to go to the library and get a book and then sit there and read it and photocopy some pages out of it. And that's how we were gathering knowledge. Today, everything's at your fingertips, yet people don't seem to take advantage of it. It just feels so strange to me.
So do you think it's a lot easier to become an entrepreneur today?
Definitely. I mean, like, we're in an era where you can start a company today, on the day, launch it, and go viral today. Literally, when could you ever do that in history? The story I love for that, right, is, for electric toothbrushes, Oral-B is the brand, right? Everyone uses Oral-B. I was on my like fourth, fifth one. They always die, and then you've got to replace it, and you buy practically the same one again. So I was about to buy the same one, and I thought, let me try something different. I went to Amazon and thought, what's the bestseller? And the bestseller was this toothbrush called Fairy Will. Fairy Will, right? A non-brand, Chinese brand, and it's a sonic toothbrush, £12, came with 6 heads, came with an interdental head, doesn't need charging for 4 or 5 months.
Really?
Right? It's like lasts years. Amazing product. Comes with a carry case for traveling and whatever else you're doing. Really well made, well put together product for 12 quid. And I thought, when else in history could you sit in China, launch a product that takes on Oral-B in the market? You couldn't do that before. What would happen? You'd need Boots to distribute your product for you. Boots are going to put you through the ringer, trying to they'll take all the margin, and it's hard to get in. So Oral-B dominates the shelves, and everybody buys Oral-B like we were. Now, I bought this toothbrush, started using it, bought it for my parents, bought it for my kids. I've I bought so many now over the years and recommended it to so many people. I'm sitting here talking about it because it's a good product.
You should be getting commission from them.
Right? Yeah. And when before could you do that? That's a whole new era, and that's before we even get to like AI and and tech. You're literally able to sit here and serve a worldwide market. I was sitting with a young man yesterday who's launching an AI startup. His immediate audience is the world. That's what he's going to serve. When we were launching businesses 20, 30 years ago, our audience was like that one street in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And we would then have to go a lot bigger to open a chain of stores, and it would take a lifetime to build up a brand and a company. They're looking to do that day one.
Yeah.
Straight away, right?
But all that information that's there, what percentage of entrepreneurs actually turn to social media or YouTube to learn those lessons? And I see frequently people, because the information is there free, they don't sort of put a value to it, and yet somebody else sells them that same information in a package of a course or a book or something. They're happy to pay for it and believe in that gospel versus the same words that have been iterated there. I remember probably must be about 9-10 years ago when Gary Vee came over to London, and the organisers, a close friend of ours, invited us over. So Gary Vee was in a boxing ring the way they had it done basically, and was at the front seat. Gary said I was with them, I think if I remember correctly, it was Oracle. He spent half a day in Oracle talking about social media and the visibility side of it. And he says, in that half a day that I spent with Oracle, they paid me $100,000. And there wasn't a single thing that he had said that wasn't available free on his YouTube channel, on his Twitter or Facebook. And yet, again, because what he said was people lapping out simply because they were paying for it. So what percentage of people do you think just ignore that advice that's on YouTube and channels like that where they can go search whatever content and ignore it, or rather treat it with a bit of caution and not act on it?
I think the right people have the ground for success, and they'll seek it out. They've got that desire to learn that's required. And I count my father in that. Like my father's like in his mid-70s. He spends a lot of time on YouTube.
Really?
And what's he doing? He's like always learning something else, right? So he's into farming and agriculture. He lives in Pakistan mostly, and you ask him, like he'll know like detailed, like what's it called, GM foods and what's going on, what new varieties are coming in, which tractors are good, and what new plow has been invented, and what kind of ways of irrigating your land is now advanced, and how many solar panels you would need to power a tube well. He'll know all this because he watches YouTube. And I say this to the young people who work for us out in Pakistan. My father is out learning you. I said, how shameful is that? He's outlearning you. He doesn't need to. He's retired. He doesn't need to learn anything now, right? He needs to just be enjoying his life.
Would you say there's a negative aspects of this as well, that we now live in an era of information overload as well, that there's far too much information, we can become overwhelmed, we don't know which information to look at, research, what to follow. There's so many experts on any one particular field that you could be looking at. So there is that element to it. So how do you separate what is good and what is bad, and how to focus on what you should be looking at?
There's a weakness there, right? That the T shape of knowledge. So we'd have this, like, a lot of knowledge is I shaped, right? It just looks like a stick. It's like, I know how to do marketing. And then you have the T shape, which is like, I understand psychology, I understand language, I understand the tech behind it, and all of those things go into your T. That then produces the better I, right? Which is the actual thing that you're trying to do. You end up with that when you have to learn around a topic. So you couldn't just go and pick up in our day, you couldn't just go and pick up the exact information you wanted. Now with AI, we're becoming lazy as well. What happens? You don't have to read around a topic anymore. Just tell me what is the best way to do this thing. But you used to be able to connect a lot more dots because you had to pick up loads of knowledge to be able to just get to the topic that you actually wanted.
I think it comes back to, again, like either you've just got the surface knowledge or the depth knowledge, and really it's the reality. What is that you're looking for? In some cases, people are just looking for the surface knowledge. They're not really interested in the depth, and then go and find out who has that depth of knowledge. But they need to understand the surface level before they can make that decision. They might need to check 4 or 5 different surface levels before they say, okay, I need to go deeper on this, or deeper on 2 of those, or 3 of those. So it's like, so your journey then from the for your first e-commerce sort of site, where did that progress to further down?
So and this is a a lesson, I think, that people should adopt now, is that you don't realize where the industry is going, and you don't realize when you're onto a good thing. And we didn't realize that at the time, that it was a .com boom. We should have really capitalized on it. We understood it early. And so in the early 2000s, we should have been opening multiple companies, opening new businesses in that space. But we had this little success and thought, okay, that's nice. I finished university and just went into manufacturing and just kept doing that for 7-8 years. And that boom passed. Every single business in the world needed a website. We weren't building them. And people became millionaires, billionaires off the back of that boom. And we just watched. We thought it's going to always be like this. There's always going to be this much opportunity. In 2008 rolled
When
around.
you say building website, was that building website for other people or building them for your own products?
Like, why not, right? Like, like as in every business was going to need a website. I know people who made millions just building a single page website again and again because every business needed one, right? We didn't realize that we were onto such a big boom at the time with the .com boom. And we're right there again with the AI boom now. And this time I'm like, I've been here before. This is a very short window where a lot of opportunity exists. We must capitalize on it. We must do things here. And when I'm meeting people who are like taking it easy, developing a startup, or think they've got all the time in the world, I'm trying to give them urgency here and say, this isn't going to last. This time right now is every business needs AI automation of some form. And they need to adopt AI tools, at least, in their businesses. How many are? I'm still meeting people who haven't even discovered ChatGPT yet. Forget like the more advanced tools, and they haven't, even touched the surface. Whereas what we should be doing right now is going as fast as we can to adopt what we can adopt and improve our businesses. Because this is all going to change. It's going to be in another year or two.
Very rapidly as well.
And it is becoming more and more rapid. These booms come and then they dissipate really quickly. There'll be a few big winners. Will we be one of them? Probably not, because we were just like, oh, well, I'm just going to carry on doing what I was doing. Yeah, I'll get round to learning this tool. Like when ChatGPT came out, I was the one in our office who came and introduced it to everybody. I found out the day it came out from my contacts in America, who said, sorry, we've got to cancel our meeting today. We have a monthly brainstorming meeting. just a few friends, and they were like, sorry, we got to cancel the meeting. Our whole world just changed. These people are some of the top copywriters in the world, and they were like, our world just changed. What happened?
For the worse.
ChatGPT just came out. I was like, what's that? And they were like, oh, well, here's the link, right? Look at it yourself. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was like, wow, I can do my entire year's work in this weekend right now. And so I came in on Monday morning, all bleary-eyed, and I was like, okay, guys, stop everything. Everyone get to the meeting room. Need to tell you something. This thing's come out. Look at it. And
what was their reaction?
Really good, right? Like, you know, everybody's like was like wanted to play with it, wanted to experiment with it, and we did a lot of things with it. But that's the spirit you've got to maintain. You don't want to be reactive. Well, ChatGPT's come out and now I'm going to use it. It should be like, we should have been aware of that. Like, I'm meeting people now who've been working in the AI industry for the last 10 years. You think, all right, 10 years ago, I wasn't thinking about any of this. They were actually, you know, pioneering it. So who's doing the pioneering right now? Shouldn't we be talking to them? But we celebrate business success as money produced now, not value to humanity produced, probably very long term. We don't value that. We look at who has money now and he's done really well, or look, he's got a very successful cafe. Okay, what's it contributing to humanity in the, you know, not to put it down, but to, where would you want to put your energy? You'd want to put it into things which are going to change the game in some way.
Unfortunately, we have that short-term vision only. If you look at the likes of Google, Uber, and all, Amazon, how long they just kept chugging away without making a single penny of profit. Whereas when we start a business, we want to make profit in that first month.
We have to as well, though, don't we? Because, like, you know, we're always bootstrapped. I've never had a business where I could take a loss for a bit. You know, not even a very short time. I need to make a profit immediately. I need to live off it quick.
Culturally, here in the UK, people are frightened of risk, whereas the US, which majority of businesses, all the lessons are coming in from, it's the opposite way around. Go out there, fail. Go out there, fail. Go out there, fail. Here, go out there and make it succeed. And yet, if you take the average investor or even the venture capital companies, and you two are sat there, and you failed 3 times and he's never failed, put that scenario here, and the venture capital will say, well, you've screwed up 3 times, we're not going to give you our money, we're going to give it to you. You put the same scenario in the US, we're not going to give you the money, go and fail on somebody else's money. Whereas you failed, you've learned your lesson, we're going to put our money with you. That's the total opposite altogether. I mean, this has been the scenario for ever since I can remember, from 40 years plus, and yet we still haven't sort of seemed to adapt that attitude in this country.
You make a really interesting point there, because there is this fear of failure. And I think our community suffers from it a bit more than British society in general, but it's still a very British phenomenon. You know, you're not supposed to ever fail. So that means you don't take bigger risks. You don't really shoot for the skies because you might fail. So you play it safe. And a lot of people will do that. I'm always talking people into business. Why don't you have a business? Why don't you start something? You're a great techie, working for another company, and you've got great skills and great ambition. Start your own company. What's stopping you? And it's that fear of failure, which, you know, you and I, all 3 of us, I think, will have that much less, because we've experienced failure and realized that it didn't end anything. The world didn't end when we failed. It didn't, implode on us. It's okay, we survived. And when you've done that once or twice, and you're just confident. I'm like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? We'll fail. We tried though.
Yeah.
And so we had that go. And the people who criticize you the most will always be the ones who've never tried.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I haven't got time to listen to them. But they will dig it in, right? And amongst friends, family, it's always people who aren't doing anything themselves, who've got, can't wait for you to fail in something and rub your nose in it. And it's okay. That's just their own insecurity. It's not about you. It's literally they're insecure that they couldn't do anything or haven't got the courage to do it.
Doesn't that sort of tells us that really we're mixing the wrong circles in reality, that we need to change our circle of people around us, the people that aren't always condemning you and holding you back because they failed once and they want to prove to you you're not going to succeed, as opposed to people who are encouraging you the other way. I mean, a typical example is over the last 3-4 years, I've lost about, on the e-commerce, you know yourself, about £350,000. But that doesn't stop me from turning around and saying, hey guys, like, you know, that's it, I'm going to dig a hole and I'm going to bury myself. I carry on and get on to the next venture.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve. And I think the sooner we realize, for our own benefits or to the community, that, hang on, what have you gained from that? What knowledge have you gained from that failings? You know, how can you put that now into a positive?
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask is, you know, when you mentioned that you started in business, and a lot of people, when they're looking to start a business, they want to look for the next big thing. They want to look for the next thing that's going to change the world or make them multi-millions of pounds. But even when you started a business and I started a business, we just did the things that other people are already doing. Because we can never, it's very difficult, right? There's no such thing as never, but it's difficult to find that next big thing that we can jump onto, that we can revolutionize the world. So a lot of people who want to start a business fall into that trap as well, don't they, do you think?
I kind of view it also works the other way, is that we do what we're exposed to. So a lot of young people I meet will want to start a car tinting business or some form. I call it a bro business, right? Why do you want to start a bro business? It's because that's what you see in your area, on your travels. That's what you're coming across.
Yeah.
So I went to San Francisco last year, and it opened my eyes, right? I thought I knew things, and I went out there and thought, what are we doing here? We're wasting our time. We should be, building businesses that could be spectacularly successful. Why aren't we? They are. That's because that's what they see.
Give us an example.
So there was someone, I went to the Muslim Tech Fest, which was started in London. The second edition of it, they did it in San Francisco. So lots of us went from the UK, but there were a lot of Americans who'd gathered there. And one of the people who was there had an exit from a company called Truebill for 1.3 billion was his exit. And so we were just sitting here talking to him as we would talk to anyone. This guy's, had such a big exit. And what's the good of it? And I'm a heart at the time.
Sorry, what was the business?
It was called Truebill. It basically helped you, when you were paying your bills, it basically made sure that you got out of those subscriptions that we all get mugged with all the time.
You forget about.
Yeah, it ensures that you go through their platform, so it makes sure that they get cancelled when they're supposed to get cancelled. Saves, users hundreds of dollars every year.
Okay.
And but they got acquired.
Yeah.
So they get acquired. It's a big exit. 4 brothers who built that business, and but then they're able to do things like when Mehdi Hassan started ZTO News, they funded it, and that's what you want. You want people to be able to do good things by building businesses at a scale that is really world class. We're not doing that in Britain. We're building small businesses. Fine. I put my hands up first. I'm exactly doing that, right? I'm building up small businesses with not even much of a view to sell them. I'm thinking I'll hold on to these while they make me some money. Maybe if someone offered me a crazy amount of money, I might sell them. But
You get too attached to them.
Or maybe it will have to happen itself. I'm not building it to sell. I'm not even actively trying to sell the thing I'm building. And I think that's a mistake. We should be, but I can argue the other side as well. Why are you selling them? Maybe you should hold on to them, right? Intergenerational wealth that you should be holding on to. Build family offices where you own multitudes of businesses instead of just putting your money into property all the time. Because business has that power. You're able to amplify output. You can really employ people. Like I spoke to my father about this 20 years ago. I said, why don't we go into property? Well, sell our businesses, wind them down, buy some property. Property values go up so fast. We could be property, magnates one day. And he said, what's the point of that? I said, why? He goes, if you own some properties, who knows you? Who cares about you? You collect some rents, you set a home, you go buy the next property when you've got enough money. Because that's no way to live life. And I thought, interesting, right? At the time, I thought he's wrong. Like, we should be trying to do this. But I get it now, is that in business, what happened, we meet people, we get to discover new ideas, we get to give jobs and employ people, train them, give internships, give work experience placements. We get to go out to trade shows and meet people around the world. We get to, discover so much more because we're active in what we're doing. And if you just quietly received money from some sort of investments that your grandfather had made, what would be the excitement in that? What kind of life
I
is
think
it?
the counter balance to that sort of sense, like, so you take the property millionaires, billionaires, or whatever, they're building these properties where the entrepreneurs are starting their businesses from. They're creating homes for people that have a roof over their head. So, the both sides of it can be argued in that sort of sense. If you just sort of like just doing 2 or 3 properties and say, that's it, I'm not going to do nothing, I agree with you 100% on that sort of side.
But I think one valid point there is that the business can be much more scalable.
Yeah.
So if you've got a business, even this day and age, whether it's AI or normal online e-commerce business, the scalability factor on that is much more vast and potential is greater compared to if you just bought one property, refurbished it, put some tenants in, sold it, bought another one, and it'll be like a quiet little accumulation in the background. But here you get an opportunity to create jobs, and that business can become Uber one day. It can become Amazon one day.
So I think come back to your original question here is that I think we need to be thinking bigger. We are exposed to certain types of businesses, and we think that's what everybody should be doing. For my time, it was e-commerce, manufacturing. In fact, I felt like I was some sort of pioneer because I was doing e-commerce. And so businesses would come and talk to me about it and say like, oh, so we've got this warehouse full of products and goods, and and Mo and I actually met at one of my first suppliers, right? Like, Mo reintroduced me recently, right, to them, and they were my first supplier. And when I started a second time in e-commerce and doing textiles, and they have these warehouses full of products, but that's what we thought we all had to do. We had to have wholesale businesses, manufacturing businesses. E-commerce was quite new. They were like, oh, so where do you sell this stuff? Like, it sells online, really? Who would buy it online? And now that's become the norm. But it's what you're exposed to. We've got to expose the next generation to what else is now possible.
Okay.
Because
I think even bigger.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk big now, there's talk now in the tech circles of the first $1 billion company that will be a single person company, no employees.
A billionaire company with
some people are saying it exists. Some people are saying it's nearly there. Some people are saying it will definitely happen soon. And I can see it because
AI is doing most of the work for you.
Why do you need staff? And so these things but shouldn't we be thinking on that level then? Why are we thinking about opening a £100,000 a year business and thinking that's the pinnacle of achievement?
What do you say about what we see around us? Let's say we're in Birmingham, you'll see somebody opens a dessert shop, then somebody else wants to open one across the road, then there's a whole different takeaways just copying each other, and we've got, would you say that's something like a malaise within the Asian community only, that we just seem to be copy and pasting?
There is, it seems to have always been a problem. We can only do it if we see another Asian person doing it. And then now it's all possible.
You open up one news agent, 100 news agents the following month.
Because that's your era.
Same thing now, like with car showrooms. You open up an e-commerce site or wherever for whatever line, somebody else sees it, everybody else wants to jump in that field as opposed to. And I think one of the
it's like these chai shops and
look at them now. Chaiwala is the main successful one. And yet on the back of that, I don't know how many you've seen. We've all seen open up for about 5-6 months and shut down, gone. Because one, they haven't got the sustainability. They jump in thinking, hang on, I'll be slightly cheaper than them. I'm going to get their customers. So they screwed their own business up and screwed the other person's business.
I can make better food than them.
No. Very rarely will you find anybody saying that. Here's the differentiating factor. Here's the difference in the taste between mine and theirs. That is where they're missing. Their concept, majority of people, I'm not being disrespectful, is I can be cheaper than them. It's always about price.
That's
price is, but being cheaper is the race, the quickest race to the bottom.
It's a really good point. I think it's just that factor of differentiation. It can be in a burger joint. It can be the sauce. there's a doner kebab shop that we grew up going to, that was a bit different. Their meat was a different color and it's spicier. It still exists. I took my kids there the other day, right? Because I said, we used to come here 30 years ago, and
it's still there.
It's still there, yeah, and still has that point of differentiation. You had lots of doner kebab, but it was all the same, but they were a bit different. At least they're differentiated, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that seems to be missing. Like, you think you're going to open something which already exists on that street or in that area, or it's nothing new. What's the thing you're adding? Add value in some way, and like, this isn't some like profound concept, right? You add value of like, okay, how can I make this thing better? When I went into the garden products industry, there wasn't much to innovate, right? I can't really literally reinvent the thing, but I spent loads of money on product development for years, just trying different things. And it could be the simplest thing. Like, one of the things that clicked for us was all garden cushions used to be green. There was like the standard color. But why? No, it's not what everybody wants. We offered 12 colors, and we had this boom for like a couple of years where like we were the only ones who had lots of colors and everybody else just sold green. Now, is that massively innovative by me? No, but it's something. And if you apply that across everything that you do, you'd find that differentiating factor and think, okay, well, everybody does this. Like, we've got this agency working out of Pakistan at the moment, 150 people work in it, and we're under pressure sometimes to just act like a normal marketing agency. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. If I wanted to do that, I just wouldn't have started. The whole point was to do it in a different way. Our approach is, we want to give people their own team of 3. That's their team. It works for them, nobody else. It's focused on your business. It's totally dedicated to that only. It's a differentiating factor.
At what point in your journey, in your business, that you decided, hang on, I now want to start giving back, and you decided to then say, okay, from this point now, I've got enough on the table for myself. I'm quite happy with what I have. Now I feel I need to commit back to the community, whether the community is over here or it's overseas. What was that turning point? What was that aha moment for you?
There were 2. One was when I went to Hajj, and I just met someone on Hajj sitting next to me like this in Mina, and he just turned to me one day, and like, he was observing me, how I interact with people, and he said, Allah's given you a talent. I said, what is it? And he said, the talent is you know how to bring people together. As I was going out and buying, I'll bake and like giving it out to everyone and sitting together and like starting conversations is like what I do. And he said, Allah's given you a talent for it, but he goes, I bet you've never used it for good. I was like, okay, what should I do then? Because he was right. I said, look, I used it for business, used it to make money. That's what I used it for. He said, if you want to use it for good, right, go back to your city, find a problem, make it your problem. I was like, okay, I don't know how to do that. But I came back, went and started volunteering on the homeless project. And then immediately thought, a side point here, but like, I immediately thought, I'm going to start my own one. I'm going to start my own homeless project. And a brother there said to me, he goes, why would you do that? It's not like, that's ego. Right?
You took the word out of my mouth.
I want my name on the door. This is Zaigham's project. He goes, are you doing it for Allah? Are you doing it for yourself? I was like, okay, no, I'm here to serve, right? And so you just quietly go in, you make the tea. Mo's very big on this, right? He goes in and he serves. And that's what we should be doing, right? So that was one turning point. I needed to look for problems to solve. And Pakistan then became that kind of conduit for me, because I could see that the problems there were massive. And we kept giving charity, but what was the point? It was not going anywhere. We thought, we've got to put people on their own feet, teach a man to fish. Don't just keep giving them the fish.
So
right?
what was the first thing that you did when you set up in Pakistan, your silos or hubs or whatever?
So the Pakistan's an interesting story. So the second turning point, let me just quickly mention, was COVID outbreak. And so when that happened, a doctor came to my house. We were just closing up the factory, and they said, could you make us some products, some gowns, something to protect our families? We're wearing bin bags. That's what they were wearing, bin bags at that time. And I looked at what they needed. It was like a garment that would just cover them up and protect them from infection. And I thought, we could make that. It doesn't look so hard, but we couldn't reopen the factory. It was like, social distancing issues. So I asked the masjids to make an announcement to see if we could get volunteers from our community with sewing machines at home. And 900 people with sewing machines volunteered.
Wow.
And then we donated the fabric. We did the cutting. They sewed the garments, and we gave out 25,000 garments in the first few weeks of lockdown to all the hospitals and doctor surgeries and everyone.
Free?
Free, yeah. And what that showed me was the power of community. People were coming out up to the age of 80-year-old ladies were sewing at home and working hard to get these garments out. People wanted to help. And that just gave me this taste of the power of community and people working together for a good aim and what can happen. And so I got to lead that campaign, made loads of amazing friends, because who came out to help? Who comes out to volunteer, on anything? Only good people come out. So you get you meet the best people, you get to hang out with them, learn from them, be inspired by them. So many of those people in those circles, Mo's one of them, is they inspire you constantly. Think, if Mo's doing all of this and he's not getting tired, what excuse have I got? And so that was the second big turning point. And then Pakistan, the story of that is that we went out there and I thought, I'm going to build a little clinic.
Build
a clinic.
Clinic.
I thought, I'll build a clinic, it'll treat people. One of my friends, that they did this in their village. They've got an ambulance that just takes people to the city for free to, get urgent treatment. I offered to buy them an ultrasound machine, in the village clinic as well, that small room that existed. I thought, what equipment do you need? Buy something. Then I realized that this isn't going to solve anything. They'll still be poor 10 years on, 20 years on, 50 years on. And you've got to think long term, right? That you've got to think, what is going to fix the problem? If you keep seeing bodies in the river, you fish one out and you fish the next one out, and at some point you say, who's throwing them in? Right? You've got to get to the source of the problem. And so I thought, what's the source of the problem? People are not economically empowered. Their outcome is not changing. Mm-hmm. So I thought, we're going to teach them skills that will make them employable. Remote work was taking off, and we'll get them employable internationally so that the money comes in pounds and dollars, and they live in their own natural environment in these small towns with their families in what's like in their own homes that they own. So they've got low cost base, but the money that they earn should be decent enough for them to have a good life, educate their children and lift themselves up, not try and do it for them. Let's give them the skills. So I thought, we're going to build a tech academy. So I co-founded this with someone I met during that PPE campaign. He's my co-founder, and he built the software to run all the batch processing when we were doing all that sewing work, and that's how I know him. So he said, I want to do something in Pakistan. I said, so do I. We said, let's do it together, and so we founded a company to do it. But the interesting story here is the first person we trained to do this, we called all the graduates, IT graduates of that year, to the office and said, we're going to start an academy in a few months. Who's interested? Obviously, they all were interested. But who's good? And they said, the best guy out of all of us is this guy who's not here today. So why isn't he here? And they said, well, he's cutting crops in a field somewhere. Why is he doing that? They go, well, he's the top performer in the year. Mm-hmm. He helps everyone, but he's poor. So there's no jobs. So he's gone off to cut crops. So we grabbed him, we trained him first, we got him to become a Microsoft Dynamics qualified professional. He works for UK clients, has been doing for the last 2.5 years.
Still with you?
Still with us, yeah, and trains others, right? Because what happens when you train these people, they train their siblings, they train their friends, they train others, they appreciate the opportunity you've given them. And what does it cost you to give it? It's willingness, that's more than anything. You put a room together. We're doing one with somebody in Balochistan possibly at the moment. And they were asking me, what's it going to cost to put it together? And I said, you should do it in your hometown. I've done it in mine. It's a room with 15 computers in it. What's it going to cost? A few £1,000s. Very doable. But you're going to then have to have the willingness to get them trained and get them hired. And that took up the last 2 years of my life.
I was just going to say, that take up a lot of your time?
All of it. I had to go out to meet people, build new relationships in new industries to make sure these people get jobs.
Is that sustainable on its own now, or how much intervention does that take from you?
No, so now it's off on its own journey, right? So
okay.
I'm more of a guiding force now because we're opening further branches. in other cities. So I'm
So which
focusing
city is it
on
in at
that.
the moment?
So we're in this city called Gojra, which is near Faisalabad, and that's where my father's from. And the next place we're opening is Abdabad, and then my co-founder's from Swabi, so he'll be opening it there. And then we're talking to Uzbekistan, Egypt, Palestine, on take our template. Again, as our belief system as Muslims, we own nothing. Nothing is mine. It's literally, I've got some knowledge on how to do something. It's everyone's.
But when you open up these different sort of silos as such, at what point do you feel you can never feel that, hang on, that's it, I've set them up after they go. Have they got the capabilities, the know-how to innovate, to continuously innovate and to see where the trends are going, which way that industry is heading? Or do you have to then continuously re-plug back in to update them to move to that next level?
So it's a good point, and I think it's about building the other side of the equation, which is what's our role in the West. We should be ambassadors for those people. So you find people who are very good at what they do. So you've got people who are amazing experts in different types of technologies, and you say to them, you start a company where you've got a team back there. You then educate them, train them in what they need. You know, there are technologies where there are like less than 50 engineers in the whole country, and that huge demand, huge day rates of thousands of pounds a day is their contracting day rate. So why don't those people train 3 people back home? They can. It's not like, and we're not saying like, you know, grab anyone and start training them. Take 3 very capable IT graduates and say, let me be personally responsible for giving them the curriculum and then polishing them and teaching them the skills they need, that they can work remotely with me, who knows what he's doing in this industry, and the 4 of us now have a great company. Easily done if someone supports you through it.
So how long have these silos been running now, roughly?
About 2.5 years now.
And what was your sort of like success rate of the people that you bring in versus, well, this person not going to be the right fit? We've tried our best to help them.
Yeah. It's actually higher than I thought. So I used to always think that, you know, it was like a 50%, right? I used to think that we bring in 10 people into the academy every 12 weeks. So it's selective. There's a lot of tests, IQ tests, all sorts of personality tests. We want to bring the best, really the brightest and the most, you know, willing. So I thought our success rate was like something like 50%, but actually it's like 80%. And even the 2 out of 10 that we don't take into our employment, they find other jobs. Because the real differentiating factor for them is they've come through a boot camp academy and they've got a certificate to say that they did it, and immediately they're more employable.
That's 100% success rate.
So yes, you know, it's like, and the success rate, probably the nicest part is that it's more women than men, because they have fewer opportunities out there. And so when they've seen the ability to work remotely from their own town and earn internationally, they've really gone for it.
So what's the churn rate of the 80% that you take on? What's the churn rate?
At the moment, 0, because
Fantastic.
And that's it. But the thing is, look, like, it's a captive market. You're in a small town, population 100,000. You've employed these people. They live with their family. Family life is not disrupted. They don't have to go off to a bigger city or leave the country. So why would they go anywhere if you continuously look after them and they progress?
Okay. Next question, again, coming back to these pods of people that you have down there, what do you help them in the initial stages to find work over here, or for business? How does that work? Once you train them, how do you sort of like, you know, get them generating money for themselves?
So no, we don't turn them into freelancers. Or instead what we do, they work for us directly. And so as soon as, so the academy is one part of the office. Mm-hmm. You graduate from the academy and you join as an associate consultant in one of the teams. And then you come up through the ranks there. But immediately those teams, and we only hire them out as teams, not individuals. So the teams of 3, and we hire them out directly to companies in the UK and the US. And they work through us already.
So how do we know if anybody wants to do some freelancing on the side?
We don't allow it, so there's strict policies against it.
Okay.
We want them to be dedicated to the work that they do for their clients. And when you let people work remotely from home, mm-hmm. they're all doing 3 jobs. It's just a given.
So they're actually in an office, even when you've given them a client?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they work from the offices.
So do you sort of work, get the client, then find the people to train up, or do you already have a batch of people that are already
Trained.
And what happens in the situation where a client drops out? Now you've got to style off 3-4 people.
Well, this is where I get my grey hairs from. So we have to be active on that side. So there's a sales team in the UK. We exhibit at events. We're maintaining our presence here, but we keep training, and Allah keeps it going. Is how I view it.
So how many people have you got currently in the...
So in that company's called Cloud Surge, and there's around 50 people now in that company. So but that's kind of one half of what we do. So that's on one floor of the offices, and then there's another floor that does marketing services. And that company's called TriVA. Very similar model, has an academy, trains people in graphic design, video editing, social media management, any kind of services a business would need to increase its visibility or to gain clients. So what every business needs. I needed it, so I started setting it up for that. And that company is about 150 people right now, and the aim for that one is to get it to 1,000, because 1,000 jobs in my town changes everything. It means 1,000 people come in. I mean, I was just like thinking, kind of calculating in my head the other day, how many millions of pounds have been injected into the economy of that town through this project alone. And if that happened to you, wherever your town is, most of us tend to be from smaller towns, I think, or ancestrally we're from smaller towns.
Villages.
We have lands there, and villages can be thousands of people. And you think if millions of pounds were injected into this economy in a productive way, not wasted on building a bigger house, which is a big problem as well. We just keep building these big houses that lie empty. In our family, we were discouraged from that. We live in a very simple house. Our father was like, he built it in 1985, and he was like, yeah, that's it. He doesn't even let us improve it. He's like, no need. Only I'm here. You guys visit for a couple of weeks. What do you need a bigger house for? You put it into business, put it into the economy. You want wealth to circulate. So I think that's the spirit we all need, is that we can set up in our towns back there and then become their ambassador. If Mo is the ambassador for his town, then that town is going to prosper, inshallah, right? I believe that, because you would work tirelessly day and night to make sure there's some opportunity.
So the people that you find in over here, where they're doing the work for, what is the average duration that they stay with, or do they find a mismatch or a misfit? How do you sort of look to say, well, hang on, there's no point, because I can see 3 months now, this is going to drop off, he's not going to need them. How do you then try and get that right fit to make sure that you have got the sustainability to keep those going? Is there any checks and things, or do you find, hang on, it's a hit and miss in the earlier stages?
Continuous training, weekly meetings, daily reports. We put a project manager on top of each of those teams, and the project manager is responsible to report to the client and tell them exactly what what's being done for them. We're learning AI tools right now. I've just recruited some really senior AI talent from around Pakistan and moved them to this town. So I'm like a migration, ambassador, it seems, for my town. So I've got lots of houses on rent in our town, which are full of staff that I brought in from around the country. So I bring them in with their families and make them live there and teach people the skills they haven't got. So I'm always looking for the next thing. Like, I recruit probably every couple of weeks someone else who's got a talent that we haven't got in that town.
Is it a great AI pool of talent in Pakistan?
Oh yeah, huge.
Really?
Yeah, Pakistan's a really, it undersells itself on the talent it's got. It's got problems, but then look, we have problems, right? But we overcame those when we were building our manufacturing out. So there's no electricity. We have generators. The generators are powered by gas. There's now no gas, so we get diesel generators. You put your diesel generators diesel's getting expensive. You put in solar panels. The internet doesn't work. We've got 6 internet connections. All 6 internet connections don't work. We have Starlink. You just solve the problem. We never cry about it. We don't sit and let it defeat us. We think, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to have to do? Because I'm doing this with you or without you, regardless, The government can try and stop me. The local politicians can try and stop me. But good luck, because you're not going to be able to stop it. I'm going to still do it to the best of my ability, or I'll die doing it.
How many of those people that you have set the silos up are shrewd enough, as well as the people around you, to try and understand that maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, they're going to be replaced by AI, or a proportion of them?
I think everyone's going to be replaced by AI.
So how do you combat that? Do you sort of like put that to the back burner, or try and find the solutions where the evolution is going for the next generation of people that are going to be working in those industries? And how can I be at the forefront as opposed to be on the back end and just have casualties?
I think you roll with the punches here and say, okay, what's about to happen? Massive disruption. So who's going to cause that disruption? You can go and hide and bury your head in the sand, or you can say, well, actually, why don't we utilize what's coming out? So AI tools are proliferating right now. Good. So we've got a research department that just researches the best AI tools that our team should be using, and then trains them in those tools. And every couple of weeks, I give them another electric shock of do you realize we're against the clock? AI agents are now out. So what's going to happen now? We're going to be replaced. So if we're going to be replaced, much better, adopt it. Disrupt yourself, right? The good example, famous example of that is Blockbuster Video. Instead of charging late fees on the movies, right, and annoying everyone, and they were offered Netflix at $1 million, and they laughed. Who's going to stream, who's going to at that time Netflix was DVDs by post. But they were just laughed at the opportunity, right? Do the opposite. So the vision I've got for our teams is each virtual assistant sitting in Pakistan should have 6 screens, each one running different AI tools for their client and delivering 6 times the output, or even more, 10 times the output of each employee that they are essentially, replacing. If you do that, you're highly valuable. And the more worrying thing is because those people are lower cost and they are working harder because they really appreciate the opportunity. And so I reckon they're going to be all right.
Good.
Who's going to really have the problem is us here, because we're higher cost. AI can do it better than us. And we have a very different work ethic right now in some of the new generations coming up. What's going to happen to us is probably more worrying.
Okay, before we wind down on this, so what has failure taught you over the years? What great lessons have you learned from, where you've had to sort of go back down to ground zero almost and come back up? Have you had too many of those incidents, or was it just a one-off or occasional, or have you always kept yourself grounded well above the ground?
No, I've had it a few times, and I'm glad that it happened, because one, it gives you humility. Otherwise, you start thinking you're the provider, you're the innovator in some form. You don't associate Allah with your success anymore if you have just pure success. So I think you need some failure in your life to ground you. I think that's also important. On the other side of it is it takes the fear away. You didn't drown. Nothing happened. I'm still alive. Still doing stuff. Still doing business. And you also learn a lot about people, because everyone's your friend when you're on the rise. Always the case. People want to know wealthy people. People want to know successful people. Have a bit of failure, and you find out who was real.
Everybody takes to the hills.
And I prefer that. It's good to know. I need to clear out every now and then, and I get that clear out when you have some major failure or major problem. Who's left? Who picks up the phone to see if you're okay, and who else wants to dig the boot in at the time? It's easy to do so. So I think that's a good thing, that when you go through those cycles. But probably the biggest lesson overall for me, though, is that you get back up. It's not how hard you fall. It's, you get back up, dust yourself off, and you carry on. And you end up with a crowd of supporters that we do that for each other. Any of us falls, we know we've got this, this group of friends and brothers who will be there. All you have to do is say, I've got a problem. This has gone wrong. They're like, yeah, that's life, isn't it? And, and you're one of them for me, right, Mo? Because I know that I can call you at any time and say, look, this has gone wrong. And you'll be like, yeah, okay. So listen, been there. It's not as big a deal as you think. And here's what you should do. And we'll ideate it out and we give each other time to be able to do that. There's a group of us who does that with each other. That's the group I've got time for. And the ones who are very much vocal in your support when you're on the rise, yeah, need to be tested.
So where do you see the next 10 years for yourself?
Very active, actually, right? So
any particular areas?
It's definitely tech. I think tech's the place to be. I think it can really change the map of the developing world if we allow it to. We should be at the forefront of it. But I don't mean tech in terms of the very basic, things that already exist. We've got to be thinking ahead and thinking what hasn't come out yet and what needs to be worked on. We need to be putting money into research and development. I'm a big proponent of the Muslim pound being recycled. That needs to be growing. You don't want to just put your money in the bank. You don't want to be putting your money into gold. You don't want to be putting your money into these kind of dead assets, even if it's temporarily good for you to put it into bricks and mortar maybe. But what's the future? If we have, we don't have an alternative to Google or Microsoft or Amazon for even hosting anything that we do. So if we want to be vocal for Palestine, we're at there's debanking that's happening to Muslim charities all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any banks, but worse than that, we don't even have any tech platforms. Where's the China does? They built their own. Russia does.
We don't have our own social media platform.
We have nothing. So we're always reliant, right? If I want to convene a group of people to work on something good, I have to go on a platform that doesn't belong to us. And that's not to say that in a divisive way. It's instead the other way, right? Is that you have to have the ground upon which you build something. If you don't own the freehold, but you're trying to build, huge towers, it's not a great idea long term, is it? You're going to need to own the freehold at some point. And we need to build that freehold. I think that's where the next 10 years as a community, and this is happening, by the way, there's a lot of conversations happening. I'm involved in building a venture studio where we're putting together for Muslim startups. Why Muslim startups? Because they're the ones who are the furthest behind, with the least access to finance. And so give them a leg up, right? Is it positive discrimination? Probably. But why is it a problem to try and target a community that's got the most issues?
But do you not also think that most people either in business or that are looking to start up are always, I need the money. And in most cases, and I'm sure you've had the same conversation with some of the people that I've had at different sort of levels over the years. Well, why do you need the money? And it's, well, if you did that on a shoestring, and then by all means prove the concept and get beyond that. How often do you get that?
Every day. I think there's this something in the atmosphere of you need money to do business, and you need a lot of money to do business, and so people spend years fundraising. I bootstrapped everything I do, and I don't work with the banks, so I'm riba free, and so I've done it. And so is it easy? No, right? It's really hard, really gut-wrenching hard. But I've done it, so I can kind of say that it's doable. I know people bigger than me, better than me, who have done it and are still doing it. Massive respect to them. I'm learning loads from them too. But we support each other. But a lot of young people think I need to go and raise hundreds of thousands of pounds to start a business. Whereas, in my opinion, to start a business, you need a customer. If you've got a customer, you'll figure the rest out. Have you got a customer? That's the question I always ask. I was asking this yesterday, so I'm laughing because I have this conversation nearly every day. Somebody starts a business, says, I need to go and raise loads of money to be able to get this going. And I'm like, do you have any customers? And they're like, no. And I was like, have you tried to get any? And they're like, no, I've got to build it all first. And you're like, well, you know what? If you had a customer and you were sitting here, I'd invest.
Lastly, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are sat on the fence or who have just started out?
I'm going to give some counterproductive advice here, I think. Not everyone's an entrepreneur. And don't be sucked in by this thing of like, it's for everybody. It isn't. I used to think this as well. Everyone can do it. And then after years of mentoring people and, you know, really putting a lot of effort in to try to make them into an entrepreneur, you realize that they're just not.
Yeah, cut out with it.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's not like, oh, you're just not good enough. You didn't make the sports team. You belong to a different team. And it's okay. You're a hockey player, not a basketball player. So what? Like, that doesn't mean you're inferior in any way at all. Like, you know, you could support a business. We all in business look for right-hand people. We all, I'm sure, would love someone to walk into the room right now and say, what do you need doing? Let me handle it. And we'll have to give them one of those 100 projects that we haven't got time to do. And that's just us. People bigger than us have got probably 1,000 projects across their desk that they can't touch because they just haven't got the time. But nobody's walking into their office. In my whole career, nobody ever walked in and said, I'm free and capable and ready for action, right? Tell me, is there something that I should be doing? I would have given them a business like, here, run that. I can't even look at it. It's an allied business to what I do. I would love to do it, but just can't.
If everybody was an entrepreneur, who would be working for you then?
Yeah. So and it's okay to work for people, I think, right? Like in our family, nobody has. And like, you know, my daughter's going to graduate this year and she says, you know, she might be the first person in the family to ever have a job for I don't know how many generations, we don't know. But like, so we're entrepreneurial. But doesn't mean that we should all be doing it. You know, some people are just haven't got that thing. You can't take the pressure. It's a lot of pressure. So it's an entrepreneurial person. You can throw them in anywhere and they'll work it out. That's the kind of personality they are. They can manage uncertainty. They can be okay with it. I don't have all the answers. Mo says, do you want to be on a podcast? I didn't ask any questions. Right? I didn't say, what is it? How is it? What's going to happen? How long is it? What questions would you ask me? You know, I'll just turn up because I'm entrepreneurial. It means I'll just work it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's fine. Now you ask your next guest and they may be, if they're not entrepreneurial, right? They may be, well, is it the right one? Is there, you know, what's the audience size and who am I talking to? What will happen? And are you going to ask me a lot of questions? And can you write them down for me beforehand, please? And then I could prepare and they'll do all of this, right? And that's just a different type of personality. I see this in my children, for example, different personalities. Entrepreneurial person, you just throw them in, they go work it out and they'll discover. I was in Doha in November with a 5-day trip with the GMW, which is the Global Muslims Who Network, and 300 people from around the world, high achievers doing great things. And I was there for 5 days. And I had a mission of working out if we could hold a tech summit in Doha later this year. No plan. No group committee, no finance, no clear vision yet. But I was like, I'm not going to do any of that. Nothing's going to happen unless I have a venue. And so I thought, I'm here for 5 days. Let me see if I can just get a venue for free. So on my last day, I'm standing on the roof of the headquarters of the Qatar Foundation, looking at venues with them, saying, you know, could we possibly put a proposal in for one of these, right? Once I had that, I came back and went, right, you know what, we're on. We need a committee. One person's in Norway, one person's in Amsterdam, one person's in UAE. We meet every week and we've started to form a grouping. Now we need sponsors.
Excellent.
Then we're going to need professionals from around the world to come and be the speakers. We're going to need a deal with Qatar Airlines to fly in the speakers at a discounted rate. There's loads of stuff going to have to be worked out, right? Accommodation and all sorts of. Am I worried? No, because I've got capable people who will join the cause, to the point where someone who used to organize one of the biggest health tech events in UAE contacted me on LinkedIn and said, do you need help? And I said, yeah, actually, you're exactly who I need, right? And so on, this keeps happening, right? And it's because you have a flag in the ground.
Yeah.
A flag in the ground. Ground is the important thing. Someone has to put the flag down and say, we're doing this, because then people know where to gather. And that's what I think an entrepreneur is. Are you that person that can put a flag in the ground when you don't even know where you are?
And then rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's key, right? That you have that tawakkul. And that's why failure is important, because it rebuilds your tawakkul. Tawakkul is not like I just had success, is everything's always going to be all right. It's not wishful thinking. Tawakkul is I'll be okay because Allah's with me. The whole world can turn against me, but Allah's with me. So what can, who can harm me? You can't reduce my risk. You can't take anything away from it. You also can't increase it. So why am I worried? When someone says to me, I don't know how to do this e-commerce stuff, could you show us? And I'm like, yeah, come to the office and there's a desk for you. And they're like, sorry, what? But then I'll know all your secrets. And I said, and then what will happen? What will happen? Will you reduce my risk? And they're like, well, no, nobody can. I said, well, why would I be afraid? I've got 4 desks for people who want to come and just spend the day there. Come and do it. And we had that attitude more with each other. We'd have better businesses. I'd have a better business if I had walked into one of my relatives who had great manufacturing business, and I just walked in and said, show me how you do it.
Yeah.
I would have had a better business. But I didn't, because I was like, oh, they're going to think he's come to do what we do and take over. And, I thought that. But now, if you want a change to occur, be the change, right? So be open yourself, and then it will become the norm. My vision is that it becomes normal for us to approach each other and say, show me how you do that thing that you do, Mo, that you're so good at. Show me how you do it. And you're happy to, I know you would just be happy to teach it, but you want people to be able to ask you, because they don't feel like, oh no, he's going to think, what does he want? What's his ulterior motive? Well, we don't think that about each other, right? If I want to ask you something, anything that you've got knowledge on, do I feel even an ounce of like, oh, Mo might not like it if I asked him? Not at all, right? I'm like, I know I can just straight ask him, and if he knows, he's going to tell me, and if he doesn't know, he's going to also find out for me, right? Because he'd be like, I know someone else, and I'll ask him for you. That's a brotherly atmosphere. That's being umatic. That's working together as one team. We need that to happen now, much more in a concerted way. And that's, I think, our job now as the older business community to create that ground for the next generation. Because it's all good saying to them, you guys should be in business, but we didn't create any institutions for them.
Absolutely. Zafar, do you want any remarks that you want to question or anything?
Jazakallah, you've shared a lot of insights, a lot of pearls of wisdom. And no doubt this information, this advice is timeless. No matter what area, if somebody listens to this 10 years down the line, that advice is still valid. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter about industry. It's about the personality, about the risk taking, about the courage, and what you've said now, the tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the most important thing. We think it's our intellect, our resources, my wisdom that's going to make it happen. No, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We never ever take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of the equation, and we constantly pray, we constantly rely, and we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then watch how the success comes.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have to drag you back again, I think, for another 1 or 2 episodes yet, going further down the line. really appreciate your time coming in and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with the audience.
It's an absolute pleasure. Look,
we're going to put below the video links on how you can contact Zaigham in the event that you do need some guidance or advice on something that you're working on or have been working on. So there'll be links below the video how you can reach out to Zaigham further. That's myself, Zaigham, and ZAFAR winding down the Leaders Show for the day, and we'll hope to see you on the next episode.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.